Okay, today we're going to start practicing yoga, basic yoga. We keep it simple. This is a test. If things turn out well, you can expect many more videos to come. We will gradually build up. We will just start with some very basic asanas. Asana, the Sanskrit word for yoga exercise. The main purpose of this adventure is to bring yoga back to its origin. So we will provide you with yoga practice that you can follow, simple steps, and we will do that in the old tradition of yoga, which may sound a little bit odd, but the reason why this is important is that yoga has been commercialized, popularized, and in order to do so, basically all the valuable and essential elements of yoga, they have been tossed out, have been thrown out. So since this is a test, we will start with doing some exercises, and when things turn out well, over time there will be videos in which I will explain also what yoga is, the purpose of yoga according to the deep insights that have been accumulated throughout tens of thousands of years of yoga, and the difference between modern yoga, the commercialized yoga, in comparison with the traditional, the ancient approach of yoga. There are so many dogmas, there is so much dogma, so many dogmas and mysteries surrounding yoga, for which there really is no need, because dogma and mystery are the result of ignorance. And having studied yoga and practiced, of course, in combination with study for more than 36 years, I developed a very deep but especially practical insight into what yoga really is about, and most importantly what it can do for the practitioner who follows the ancient tradition. The modern approach, the popular commercialized approach to yoga, is basically exercise surrounded by a veil of mystery that gives you the feeling that it's kind of special, while not being in line with what yoga really is about. So I will explain all about that later in detail. But what you need to know is that traditional yoga starts with standing still, so no movement. A very important element that is missing in most yoga these days is silence. There's always music being played, and the teacher is constantly talking, constantly explaining about the benefits of the exercise, which is always limited almost always limited to the physical aspects of yoga. Well, that is only 5% of what yoga really is about. So we will practice in silence, no music, and I will have to explain here and there a little bit, possibly about the alignment, but I will not distract you with all kinds of physical elements, details about muscles, joints, etc. Because that really isn't what yoga is about. The reason why you practice in silence and with a teacher who is not talking too much is that one of the big issues, one of the big elements that yoga is offering us is that it allows us to connect with ourselves deep inside. This connection is only possible when we stand still and when we are silent, in silence. That is what is mysteriously called hearing the voice of your soul. It is what is also called being connected, which many people use the phrase being connected or disconnected. I've never heard a clear explanation of what that really means. Being connected is a matter of hearing the subtle signals that come from all over your body, which, when disconnected, we are incapable of hearing, and that is usually the result of movement and noise. Noise in all its forms. There can be music, but it can be noise from the environment, traffic, movement of people, etc. Worries, doubts, emotions, etc. So practicing in silence, you eliminate all these distractions, and without any further effort, you automatically, naturally start to connect with your inner self. This leads to incredible, refreshing insights into who you are, where you are from, and very importantly, in the future, where to go. This may all sound very unrealistic, maybe, mysterious, but it is far simpler than it sounds. If you want to connect, do not think about it. Just create the circumstances that lead to that connection. And that is what traditional yoga does. In silence, without movement. Let's have a look at how this works. The first pose is Tadasana. It's standing straight, standing erect. You place your feet parallel, you stand erect, but you have to build it up systematically. So you start consciously feeling the contact with the foot soles on the floor. So distribute the weight on the foot soles evenly. Okay, so do not stand on the balls of your feet, do not lean backwards with your weight on the heels, but try to consciously distribute the weight on the foot soles. Next step, you go up a little to the knees. Gently lock the knees, so not tight, not strongly, gently, so that your legs are straight. And not only are the legs straight, all the muscles, left, right, inside, outside, back and front, all the muscles are gently engaged. This engagement is important for the flow of energy. So you're not passively standing in this pose, which from the outside it looks to be. You're actually actively engaging. After having taken care of the legs, you then focus on the hips. You tilt the pelvis a little bit forward. Not too strong, but just a little bit. This activates all the muscles in and around the hips and around the waist. The back becomes a little straighter. It's still hollow, but a little straighter, and you are actively erecting. The belly is tucked in because you have engaged all the muscles around the waist area. Next step is that you pull the shoulders a little bit back, but gently, not in an exaggerated way. Gently pull the shoulders a little bit back and stretch up the back of the neck. It's like imagining hanging on a string that is connected to the crown of the head. This is the basic standing pose, and it is the start of every other standing asana, every other standing yoga exercise. So we start like this, feet parallel, approximately shoulder width apart, hip width apart. Parallel, distribute the weight on the foot soles, straighten the legs, tilt the pelvis a little bit forward, shoulders a little bit back, stretch up the back of the neck. Close the eyes for a moment, take a deep breath. The Sanskrit name of this pose is Tadasana. It means in English the mountain pose. You're standing solid like a mountain. From here we go to Vriksasana. Vriksa is Sanskrit for tree. This is the tree pose. You slowly shift your weight to one foot and you bring the heel of the other foot as high as possible. You bring the heel up and place the entire foot on the inside of the leg, inside of the thigh, a little bit on the back of the inside of the thigh. Then the first important step is, of course, to establish balance. The second step is, after you have raised your foot, your hips are not horizontal anymore, they're not even anymore. So you try consciously to lower the left hip in order to horizontalize the hips. Level the hips horizontally. Having taken care of that, you start focusing on the upper part. You bring the hands up slowly, cross the thumbs, join the hands, and then actively stretch up fully. But keep the shoulders depressed. Keep the shoulders depressed while actively reaching for the ceiling. Now it's time to be silent. You keep breathing deep and calm, and you try to stay in this pose 15 seconds in the beginning, 30 seconds. When you come back from the pose, you take a little rest, allow the energy to spread out, settle down. Then you repeat on the other side. You start again with Tadasana, the mountain pose, standing erect. And then you repeat on the other side. Bring the other foot up as high as possible. Place the foot sole on the back of the inner thigh. Find your balance. Level the hips. Bring the hands up. Cross the thumbs. Hand palms together. And while keeping the shoulders depressed, actively stretch up. Reach for the ceiling, but keep the shoulders down, keep the shoulders depressed. Breathe deep and calm, that's crucial. Never hold the breath. Seconds. If you keep practicing day by day, you increase the time to 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 60 seconds. And when you come back, you do that slowly and controlled. First the hands down. Then the foot down, and in Tadasana, you take a little rest. Allow the energy to spread out, to settle down. And you can already feel the huge difference between traditional yoga and modern yoga. If you feel that difference, I'm sure you will become addicted. You will not engage in modern yoga practice anymore. You will always want to look for traditional yoga, simply because it feels good, because it feels right. It's just amazing how powerful something so simple can be. Okay, then we have a forward bend. You start again from Tadasana. Stand erect. Imagine, visualize hanging on a string by the crown of the head. Hands on the hips. Inhale deep. Exhale, bend forward. Grab the big toes. What is important when you do this is that you focus on the tilt of the pelvis. Do not focus on bending the back, because bending the back has no benefit. Again, from the side, inhale deep, exhale, then look how my back remains straight while my hips are doing all the work, tilting forward. I grab my toes, but in case you're not so flexible yet and you can't grab your toes, do not force yourself down. Eventually, if you keep practicing, within a couple of weeks you'll be able to grab your big toes. So if you can grab your big toes, hold on. And if you go deeper, do that while at the same time elongating the spine. Look, bending the back is easy. Keeping the back straight, that's not easy. But it is exactly that element that makes this pose, that looks like a very basic pose, makes it actually very powerful and very sophisticated. So, now it's time for a moment of silence. We have built up the pose step by step. We push the tailbone up to the ceiling. We elongate the spine, breathing deep and calm, we stay in the pose. 15 seconds, 30 seconds. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. You keep breathing deep and calm. That's the most important. And then we slowly come back. When you come back, do not bend the back. Instead, raise the head first, the shoulders, make the back hollow, and slowly erect. You take a deep breath, allow the energy to circulate, to spread out. And again, you can just feel the magic in this approach as compared to the constant movement that you experience in modern yoga. Okay, then we have Utthita Trikonasana. Utthita Trikonasana is a triangle pose. Also starting from Tadasana, the mountain pose, stand erect. Now everybody who knows yoga knows the triangle pose, Trikona. What many people don't know is the importance of the meaning of Utthita. Basically, when you are standing in Tadasana, you already apply the principle of Utthita, which is erectness, straightness. The opposite of erectness or straightness is this. Have a look at the difference. See, my legs are soft, my hips are not active, the waist is not active, the shoulders are drooping. There's no energy there. Now look at the difference when I apply Utthita. See that? So we apply Utthita also in the triangle. It is the first word of the Sanskrit name of the exercise. Utthita Trikonasana. We spread the feet. You don't have to jump. You can simply spread the feet. Now, most teachers will tell you to align your feet and to align your hips. Since you are going to tilt the hips, you immediately feel the limitation there. It's not natural, and as a result, we bend the back to get into the pose. Worse, we lean on our hand, either on the leg or on the floor. There is no Utthita there, there's no energy there, no power. Misalign the feet. If you're not sure, start from Tadasana again. You have this distance of approximately 20 centimeters in between your feet. Maintain that distance when you move one foot back. So you spread your feet, depending on the length of your legs, of course, approximately between 90 centimeters and 110 centimeters. Between 3 feet, 4 feet. Inhale deep, spread the arms, stretch up under the armpits, stretch up the flanks, as if you're being lifted up under your armpits. Then, inhale deep, tilt the pelvis sideways. And to make that tilt possible, to accommodate that tilt, you already feel from the beginning that your hips want to rotate. So do not keep the hips aligned. That is unnatural and it limits you enormously in this pose. As a result, you will not gain the benefits of this pose. So allow the hips to follow their way naturally, which means they want to rotate. Allow that to happen. Tilt the pelvis, focus on the pelvis like you did in the previous pose where you bent forward. See, my upper body is not bending. It's all in the hips. If you're not so flexible, you don't go deep so much yet. If you're already quite flexible, you continue to go down, but do not bend the upper body. Many practitioners put their hand on their leg or on the ground and then they lean and they become passive. There's no energy there. So don't do that. Don't lean. Instead, Udita. You not only keep this straight, but you also keep this straight, like you did in Tadasana. You erect the upper body. You open the chest. And you feel that all the work is done from the heels all the way up to the upper body. It's not only in the legs and the hips, you're also working in the upper body, and this makes it a very complete exercise. Do not lean. You can touch your leg or your foot or the floor as a reference, but the moment you lean, you lose the purpose of the exercise, you lose the effect of the exercise. And when you're done, you slowly come back. Go back to Tadasana and relax for a moment. Take a deep breath. Then we repeat on the other side. Now, at the introduction of the pose, I talked a lot. This time, repeating on the other side, I will talk less. We spread the feet. Remember, knees align the feet. Inhale deep. Exhale, focus on the tilt of the pelvis. Keep the body straight. Not only sideways, also from the front, open the chest. Do not lean on the hand. Now a moment of silence. Look up at the ceiling. Breathe deep and calm. Stay in the pose 15 seconds, 30 seconds. If you're comfortable, you can close your eyes, but it can cause you to lose balance. So depending on how you feel. When you feel you're done, you come back, and you come back slowly. You don't have to jump, but you can jump back into Tadasana. And you take a deep breath and you feel the energy. This is just amazing. This is nothing compared. This is everything compared to when you do the modern yoga in which you're constantly moving, basically. Utthita Parsvakonasana, we refer to this in English as the wide triangle pose. You see again the word Utthita coming back here. It's a variation of the triangle, but much more intense. Utthita means intensely erect. Parsvakonasana does not mean triangle. It's not extended triangle, the meaning of the Sanskrit. Parsva means flank. And that gives you an indication of how you should properly align in this exercise. So what this means is extended flank pose. Utthita being extended, erect, and flank. The flank is not only limited to what we usually refer to as the flank, but it's the whole side of the pose. In this case, it's from the heel all the way up to your hand. You will see when we put into practice the pose. Start in Tadasana. Spread the feet wide. You spread the feet 20, 30 centimeters, maybe even 40 centimeters wider than in the previous pose, because you're now going to bend the front leg. Inhale deep. Exhale, bend the front leg as deep as possible, at least until the thigh is horizontal. Then you tilt the upper body and you bring it in line with the rear leg. So the front leg is bent, the rear leg is straight. You lock the knee, keep it straight. You dig the heel into the ground. Parsvakonasana is this. The heel up to the hip, up to the shoulder, up to the tip of your fingers. One straight line. Do not lean. Do not lean, because you lose the power of the exercise, the effect of the exercise. Carry the weight entirely with your legs, your hips. It's a heavy pose, you can't stay too long. Slowly come back. And back to Tadasana. Because it's intense, you feel the heartbeat is up considerably. So you need to take a couple of deep breaths, allowing the heart rate to settle down also before you repeat. So that means in this pose, it takes a little bit longer than the tree pose and Utthita Trikonasana. Okay, then we repeat on the other side. Spread the feet wide. Misalign the feet like you did in Utthita Trikonasana. Inhale deep. Exhale, bend the front leg 90 degrees until the thigh is horizontal. Tilt the upper body, bring the flank in line with the rear leg, which is straight. Stretch up. Try to create a straight line from the heel all the way up to the tips of the fingers. Do not lean. Breathe deep and calm. Very important. When you feel it's enough, you slowly come back. And you relax for a moment. Take a deep breath. Okay, then we sit down for a moment. Today we'll leave it at this. This is not only a test, it's also a little bit an introduction. What you see here is an amazing concept where you not only have a physical workout, but you have also a mental workout. Because standing still without concentration is simply not possible. That is why it has to be quiet. You practice in silence, no music, no teacher who is constantly talking. And you stand still in the poses. The benefit is there's no stress, there's no sweat, there's no burning muscle. When you feel that the exercise is causing too much discomfort in the form of pain, burning muscle, shaking muscle, that is a signal, that is an indication that you have to stop doing the exercise. So it's benign, it's a friendly exercise. You determine how long you stay, how far you go. Why is this important? If you stay too long, it will cause restlessness. It will make you feel restless, uncomfortable. There will be pain, and in the end, you will start sweating. The first principle of yoga, when you study yoga, not only practice but study, the first principle you will learn is the principle of ahimsa, which means non-violence. Non-violence usually is explained by teachers as saying, don't kill your neighbor. And that's the end of the subject. And of course, killing your neighbor is a form of violence, but most people know that that's not something you should do. What most people don't know is that on a much more subtle level, we commit acts of violence to other people, but very importantly also to ourselves on a daily basis, many times a day. Subtle levels of violence that we do not recognize. When you start practicing yoga, you start recognizing these little acts of violence, these subtle acts of violence. And it simply starts with your exercises. If you stay in a pose too long, it's himsa. It is the opposite of ahimsa. It's violence. So when I teach my structured course, in the very first class of the course, existing out of 40 classes, we discuss the subject of ahimsa, non-violence. And my important message to my students is ahimsa, among many other things, means from today, become your own best friend. Becoming your own best friend will, from now on, change your life. But start with simple things like applying ahimsa in how you practice your asana. And it will gradually extend into your daily life activities, at work, at home, and very importantly, in your relationships. Relationships with yourself, your internal conflicts will diminish. But relationships with your partner, your children, your parents, your colleagues, your neighbors, etc. That's for later. If you start thinking about it in that way, you get a headache. Simply start applying it into how you practice asana, and the rest is just a matter of time. It will naturally, without you having to worry or think about it, it will integrate into your daily life and into your interactions with daily life, with your environment. Practice of asana is designed to prepare you for meditation. If you constantly move and create restlessness, your mind will also become restless and meditation will be very difficult. If you stand still and you practice in silence, the mind becomes still and silent, and after your exercise you sit down. You're already in a meditative mood. Meditation in itself, in the technique of meditation, is not difficult at all. It's not complicated. What is difficult about meditation is to stay focused. When the mind is restless, that focus is disturbed within seconds of you closing your eyes. When you practice asana correctly and you do that in silence, you will see that the periods of